Okay, so welcome to this Spirit Gathering teleconference. Today is Tuesday, June 20th, 2017. My name is Nancy Reuben, and the topic for tonight is You Are a Beacon of Light. And so glad you joined us. Thank you very much. So we are recording this call so that people who could not be here with us tonight can listen to it at some later point. And please remember, those on the call again, to just remember to press star 6 to mute your phone, to mute the line when you're not talking, and then to press star 6 when you would like to talk. So I'm going to start with the invocation, and we're going to take a moment first in quiet to just get settled, to center ourselves, to let go of all the events of the day, and to begin to enter into a deeper and sacred space within ourselves. So I'll let you know when a minute or two are up, and let's just sit and get centered. Now, let us imagine that we are joining together, sacred heart to sacred heart, with every other person on this call right now. Now, let us imagine that we are joining together in a circle with a light or flame or fire in the center. Imagine a spoke of light coming from the center of the circle to your heart, and for each person on the call tonight, or listening in thereafter. Now we are connected, sacred heart to sacred heart. Now let us set our intentions. We listen to one another with compassion and curiosity. We ask for what we need and offer what we can. We deepen our connection with one another and the divine. May this sharing serve us, our communities, and the planet. And so it is. Well, once again, I'd like to welcome you to our spirit gathering. You are a beacon of light. And on the eve of the summer solstice, I think it's an auspicious time for this topic. It is said that the summer solstice is traditionally a time to celebrate the light of consciousness within ourselves. The progress of the sun throughout the year is thought to symbolize the process of attaining enlightenment. The summer solstice, being the final climax of this journey, is the longest and most light-filled day of the year. So we tend to think of light as being synonymous with spiritual and divinely infused energy. And a beacon is thought to be a source of light or inspiration, a light that guides and gives hope to others. Most of the world's great religions and spiritual traditions agree that it is the light that creates and permeates all of multidimensional existence, both the manifest and the unmanifest. It is the light that both balances and dispels the darkness and illuminates the path for us so that we may find the light within ourselves, especially within our hearts. We know that when a person truly desires to know their inner light, they consciously or unconsciously open to receive a transmission of light from someone carrying a pure and high energy frequency. On an energetic level, when the seeker's own vibration has resonated with this high frequency transmission, a light has been lit within the seeker. More precisely, the light has been acknowledged since it was always there. The seeker's task is now to embody the light, to integrate it with his or her physical, mental, and emotional bodies, to become a whole person, and to become a transmitter of light, him or herself, a beacon helping to light the path for others. It was once believed that only the god or the gods were the beacons of light. As time passed, the few enlightened masters were accepted as teachers and transmitters of light. As centuries passed, human appointees took on this responsibility. The priests, the imams, the rabbis, and the medicine men and women, to name a few. As the 20th century progressed, it became appreciated that even your regular secular human might have the capacity to become a beacon of light, to even become enlightened. But there have always been people living among us who carry a high vibration, who are filled with love and insight, kindness, humility, joy, and optimism, to whom others are drawn for support, love, hope, and to be uplifted. We now understand that every particle of light and note of love that is transmitted by anyone exponentially multiplies and contributes to the uplifting of the cosmos. All of us who are making a conscious effort to walk the path of light, truth, and personal evolution have come to understand that it takes a lot of work, patience, surrender, and courage. We accept the calling to be an individual light center so that we can enjoy our lives, be illuminated by our existence on earth, and so that we may be in service to all of life everywhere. Yet these are trying times. Earth life has always come with intense challenges. In addition to the internal physical, mental, and emotional challenges, there will always be illness and accidents, violence, aging, environmental catastrophes, and political upheaval. Speaking of which, there is a lot of turbulence these days, a lot of chaos and negativity and lunacy in the world right now. All of this has triggered a lot of our own inner turbulence and fear. In addition, one of the challenges of being a beacon of light is that many people will seek you out, wanting to talk with you, walk with you, receive help or advice from you, or just be around you, just be in your presence. This can be a wonderful thing, but it may also bring up important self-care and boundary issues. This can throw you off your center. Like little lighthouses, we are being asked to remember that the light is there within us, even in the dark, the wind, the rain, and the fog. Even when we feel adrift and anxious or even lost, we need to understand that we are not devolving and that we haven't extinguished our light or our hope. In these moments, we can attend to our own needs and receive the love and support of our community of light, as well as our family and friends. We can be beacons of self-care and rejuvenation and beacons of restoration. In A Light Being's Guide to Earth Changes, Athabascar and the communities of life tell us that if you choose to act in connection with your light and with the support of your community of light, you navigate a different course through the earth changes and have a much higher set of choices and outcomes available to you. Your light is with you always, waiting for you to access it. So let's sit for another moment. To absorb this transmission. Once again, centering ourselves. Connecting with the great light and with the light within. Connecting with ourselves as beacons of light. Holding steady with our own center of light. But also knowing that whatever light we hold serves as a transmission for all of those within our transmission field and for all of the world and the universe and the cosmos. And so today I thought that we would have a discussion among us, a time to share about all of these aspects, about connecting with the light, our own stories perhaps about, to begin with, when we first realized that we were searching for something, and how we found it, who we looked towards, and how we began our path of awakening and connecting with the light. And then perhaps moving on to how it is that we as individuals nurture our light. What are the things that we do, our practices, our cognitive thoughts? What are the things that we do to remind ourselves that the light is within us? And then we'll move on to a sharing about how have external circumstances in the world, or the ones that are going on right now, affecting us, and what we can do to remain beacons of light during these times. How do we handle these challenges? And how can we support each other as we move on as other members of the community of light? So I'm wondering if you'd like to share, if anyone would like to start, by maybe talking about their journey, if you wouldn't mind. How you first got the idea or the calling to look for the light, to appreciate it even on the outside, and then to maybe look for a way to connect with it inside. And when you're ready, just press *6 to unmute your line.
Hi, this is Diane.
Hi, Diane.
Hi. There was this wonderful annual conference in D.C. for many years called Common Boundary, and there was a magazine published out of Maryland. And this, I don't know what year, but whatever year it was, probably early 90s, Joan Borisenko was one of the speakers, and she was talking about this program. She was on the board of this program that was based out of California, and I felt really drawn to that because I was searching and trying to find the more meaning, and I found this conference to be very meaningful and very interesting presenters and seekers, I think, would be a good name. And it was the quadrinity process by, Robert, and I can't think of his last name at the moment, but I went out and did that program, and it was this, they did a lot of work on the emotional, mental, and physical bodies, and then that, launched into this really nice spiritual space. And I can remember waking up one morning, before my eyes were open and seeing all this light. And that was really a poignant moment for me. And then, interestingly, to tie together your various questions of these times being very chaotic and how to stay centered and in light and be a beacon and so on, I was in a chaotic space after I had done this program. A year or two later, I had been at a job for 12 years, and I was really not finding it to be as energizing as it had always been for me, and I didn't know what was next. And it's when I came to Roselight, and but it was in an awful lot of chaos in my personal life. The chaos was really trying to figure out something that was whatever was next for me, that would bring meaning and where I could contribute and all those kinds of things. And it was an interesting hiatus time. I seemed to need, I took every class that, was offered by Roselight, and I did that actually for many years. And that provided a structure and a support, and I would say a sorting out that was really important. I think I had this ball of entanglement inside of myself, and it just kept unfolding and becoming more clear over time. And it continues to be that way by connecting in to the energies and intending and asking for clarity or whatever it is. It really is bringing more consciousness, the unconscious into consciousness, I think, for me. And I find the radiant reflective practice that Amy and Topsoil learned and brought along with the golden energies to be extremely useful and helpful in that continuing unfolding and continuing growth into greater light, and just at such profound levels that I'm just grateful. And so I don't know, I think that's, as Athabaskar's always said, is that it's just in times of chaos or any time, you just have to keep doing your work, and those waves of clarity and greater consciousness have an impact. And that's all I know to do. And I can say for myself that it's been really life-giving and just, with profound shifts of into greater light and consciousness. And I'm complete.
Thank you, Diane. Did someone else join us?
Hi, Nancy. This is Gwen. I apologize for coming in at the last minute here.
Hi, Gwen. Oh, happy to have you.
Happy
you're here.
Thank you.
What we're doing is we're taking turns talking about how we first came into contact or realized that there really was a big light, a big, multidimensional existence, and then what led us to first look to find the light within us. What was our first step? Why were we, what happened that we even reached out to someone or to something? And we can talk, each person can talk all at once or as we go along. Then how do you connect to the light? And what do you do to nurture it within you, your practices or cognitively or anything? And then we'll be talking about, which one can also do along with everything else there, what it is like to be a beacon of light in these really challenging times. And with all the challenges that we normally have in addition to the recent things that are going on in the world. So you can either settle in or join in right away.
Yeah, I'll just settle in. Thank you.
That would be great. Okay. And if you wouldn't mind muting *6 while you do that, that would be great.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Gwen. Welcome. Okay. Anyone want to go next? Or care to share?
Hi, this is Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
I was just thinking back on my life, and I think the foundation for experiencing the light within came from nature as a child. I always felt the presence of a higher being in that world of nature, in that communion, and the beauty of creation. And then when I was 21, at the university, I was studying deaf education, and my supervisor was this amazing woman. She was probably 60 then, and I was in my early 20s. And I finally had to ask her what she was into, because she was not like anyone I had known. And it turned out that she studied the works of Rudolf Steiner and Waldorf education, which some of you may be aware of. And that opened an entirely huge doorway, both into Western esoteric knowledge and reality and Eastern. And I studied and started a Waldorf preschool here in Cincinnati, and that was really, again, walking through another portal and just living with the light, with the children, and having my own children, the births, another experience of the light. And I think now, I mean, I went to the Barbara Brennan School and I studied with Amy after that at Roselight, and tremendous learnings and just teachings and fellowship. And now I find that in working with my clients who come for energy healing or what's called spiritual direction, a form of counseling, I guess, I feel that it's such a privilege to step into sacred space with each person that comes. And I feel myself retuned in those encounters every time, and experience a heart-opening communion with that person and the light in them. And I have experienced, as you mentioned earlier, Nancy, that, you know, a number of people have come to me through the years, even before I was trained and got a master's in pastoral counseling and the other trainings. And I have found that it's a challenge sometimes with self-care, and just maintaining a balance feels very important. So what I do now that brings me in touch with my own light and just is replenishing, I walk in nature. That is a great source for me still. And I find that there's so many portals to that experience of the light. One is walking in nature. One is experiencing the Eucharist at our little Franciscan community here in our university neighborhood several times a week. Another is doing a light prayer that just found me on the internet, where you work actively with the light for 5 minutes and send it to everyone you know and to every place in the world, which brings me to the last part, what I recall anyway, of what you mentioned about the times we're living in. That light prayer I find really helpful to remind me to step back and center in the light within, and then to send it to those places or those persons, those families, those refugees, whoever it may be. And it seems equally important to get me out of a space of insecurity or, you know, anger or I can't believe this is happening, and into another dimension of myself which is able to be calm and to send love and to send peace and to feel it within myself. So let me think. I think that's all. I mean, I could say things about family and friends. And, well, there is one other thing. Yesterday I took our 34-year-old son, John, who uses a wheelchair, who has multiple disabilities. I took him to get his state ID. And we had to go downtown. And right now there's a very volatile trial taking place where a policeman a year ago shot an unarmed African-American man. And there was one trial and now a retrial. so my son was a little bit nervous about going downtown because of the turbulence in our city. And I said, well, John, that's all right. We're just going to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. It's not anywhere near the courthouse. Well, we drove down, and, of course, I had forgotten it's right next to the courthouse. So there was a lot of commotion and people protesting, understandably, and horns honking. But we went into this tight little space to get his state ID, and it was crammed with people, and there was unrest, and racially it was a very kind of divided atmosphere even there. But I found myself starting conversations with any number of young and older people in line, and just feeling our shared humanity and feeling that reflected back to me. And I made a point to do it. I wasn't thinking of like any agenda, but I just felt that it was a good, simple thing to do. And, I could say I made some new friends yesterday, and in the diversity and the chaos that was going on. And I explained to my son later driving home that, I thought even though it was uncomfortable at the beginning for him, that this was the best thing we could possibly do in this moment. It's just to be ourselves. He in his wheelchair and me, with silver hair in the middle of downtown with all of that going on and everyone affected by it. And doing what we did at the beginning of this spirit gathering, Nancy, which was to join heart to heart, and that's what happened. So I'm glad I remembered that to share.
It's very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really. I just wanted to say, in listening to Diane and Nancy, that one thing really stands out for me amongst every other beautiful thing that they've said, which is that there seems to be a point at which, without even speaking it out loud, that each of you realized right away that you were in fact a beacon of light. And I think that happens when there's feedback. You have some awareness not only of your own light, but that others respond to it, and that there is feedback going on. And I remember Sanea and Dwayne in Luminescence always speaking about transmission as a feedback that occurs, that you're transmitting, and then people, even in their response, are transmitting and sending energy, as it were, sharing energy back with you, and that builds upon each other. And that story, Nancy, with you and your son reminded me of that, especially of how a real beautiful kind of infinity sign of light was occurring between all of you. So thank you very much. Would anyone else like to share?
This is Deborah. I will just say a couple of quick points. I think I knew at a very young age. I remember thinking as a child that I wanted to be a conduit for God's love and light. And I was raised in a very, mainstream Methodist church. My grandmother is quite religious, and my parents were both very involved. And for me, it was an awareness of that kind of purpose in life, but I don't think it really sparked for me until I became interested in a more metaphysical existence and a more metaphysical training that I had through spiritual counselors, through Rose Light, through all sorts of things. And the way that I calm myself down now is my mantra. The universe supports me and I allow it. And I usually, if things are getting really chaotic around me, or I'm feeling like things aren't going the way I want them to, if I can in that moment step back and get quiet and say, the universe supports me and I allow it, I seem usually able to shift the energy enough to at least be open to the possibility that things are going according to plan. And so that is all I need to say. I'm complete.
Thank you, Deborah. Very beautiful. It's a great mantra. Anyone else like to share?
Hi, this is Sally.
Hi, Sally.
And I can't say I've really had direction as a child. I think that for me it really started when I started to study homeopathy. And as I started to work with this form of healing and experience it, I was intrigued by the fact that this was a energy-based medicine, and what did that mean? And one of my first teachers, in probably the first month of studies I took, was talking about the difference of allopathic medicine and homeopathic medicine. And he said, well, you know, you can do a lot of physical damage with allopathic medicine. And point of fact, it is one of the leading causes of death in the world. But on the other hand, homeopathic changes a person's soul. And I was like, what does that mean? And if I'm going to work as a homeopath, how am I going to treat other people's souls if I really don't have an understanding of the soul? And so that was a real kind of waker up for me. And then, interestingly, people just started appearing in my life. And I was introduced to Rose Light. I was introduced to Barbara Brennan. I was introduced to, different healers. And my journey began. And currently I work over at UMCA College for Seniors, and I've organized a meditation group that meets twice a month there. And I'm also teaching a course on sustainable medicine, which is really to talk about how there are medicines in the world that work on the vital force. And what is that, and what is it to connect with the force of love? So that's kind of where I see myself as a beacon today, as well as just in the community and all. And in dealing with the turbulence of today, I think that to some degree I become a hermit in my house, which I just love being in after being cramped in an apartment for 30 years in New York City. But I really find solace and healing and grounding in nature. And so, like today, I'll just go out and, pulling weeds for me is just nature therapy and creating a beauty that is kind of the expression of God's creation just is incredibly satisfying. And I do work with mantras and other kinds of meditation as well as the golden pulse. But I have to say there are times when it's really hard because it's so easy to get sucked into the drama that's going on. And so I appreciate having forums like we do tonight where people can come together and, you know, kind of bring our love and energy to one another. That's it.
Thank you, Sally. It's wonderful. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share?
Hi, this is Jose.
Hi, Jose.
I was and am blessed to be in a family. I was raised by my mom and father who very spiritual Catholic, practicing Catholics, and they attended Mass and have always attended Mass on a daily basis. And I remember being at a very young age just impressed with not just sort of their devotion, but also how that translated into how they were as people and how they were respected by, you know, their friends and peers and people in our community, and admired that, and always sort of found going to Mass and participating in the sacraments is something that brought me a measure of peace and happiness. And the difficulty that I had as I got older and I grew up, most of my best friends were Jewish and are Jewish, that I had a difficult time reconciling how religion divided us, and engaged in a series of sort of ongoing conversations with one of my very best friends who was Jewish about, you know, the commonality of our faiths and what it meant to be a religious person and how that impacted us and why were we divided, but what was it that unified us. And he suggested that I read a book called Return to Love, which I'm sure you all know, by Marianne Williamson, which I read and which I was thoroughly impressed with. And then I went immediately to the source material, which was A Course in Miracles, which just knocked the roof off my soul and my being. And I couldn't believe that what I was reading and how this resonated sort of with my traditional upbringing, but also expanded my horizon in terms of what, you know, how metaphysics works and what really does unify us and how this message had been transmitted. It's a fascinating story, as many I'm sure you'll know. So I took a deep dive into A Course in Miracles, and then in early 2000, I had a series of knee injuries, and I was physically somewhat impaired, and my family, I just had a newborn, and we were participated in a health center in New York City as part of Columbia University called the Center for Health and Healing, and I was referred to someone that provided body work, who I went to see, and this person turned out to be Tina Awad. And Tina, at one point we immediately hit it off, and she's a wonderful person, a wonderful spirit, and she had a flyer out at one point in her office that was advertising a Awakening Your Light Body course, and I picked it up and I was like, "What is this?" And she's like, "This is a course that I'm offering." And so long story short, I took the course and was introduced to the light body work and to Daben and Oren, and very much took to that work and integrated it into my life. And I was married and I was having children, and I was very interested in how to apply these skills and these understandings and tools that I was acquiring in a way to my practical life, into my business, into my marriage, into raising children, and found it to be an incredible resource in terms of how to deal with the stresses, the everyday stresses that come with being alive and participating actively in life, whatever form that might take. So I there was an intellectual attraction, but there was also a very visceral attraction to this work in terms of how it empowered me and how it helped me navigate and the stresses and deal with situations. So I was blessed to then be introduced to the Rose Light and to different teachers, including Nancy, and have taken many courses and have continued this practice throughout up until now. And my current practice centers around always trying to maintain an ongoing learning in a particular aspect of, say, awakening your light body, or doing the Rose Light work, which I'm doing the compassionate response courses. So being active in some sort of community work with the light community, and then also taking care of myself and being very aware of some of the tools and skills and practices that I can do to maintain physical health. I practice Qigong on a daily basis. I'm very conscious about what I eat, and meditate. And I do meditation. I practice meditation on a daily basis as well. So I find what I find most encouraging is how active the universe is in meeting me wherever I am, and how intelligent it is in terms of the experiences that are served up to me, and how I can understand how they're there for my learning. And I'm inspired by the understanding and the sort of compassion that comes from the universe. Like I see that I'm being recognized as someone who is under stress, for example, and that's not an easy thing, and that being alive in these times is challenging, and that's okay, because that's part of the curriculum. And so when I see that, and when I experience that, when I hear that, it de-stresses everything, because I know I'm being understood. So being understood as someone who's walking the path, for me at least, is an incredibly important support and element and fuel to continue to walk down the path, as difficult as it might be. And as far as dealing with just current stuff that's going on, I feel like being in a state of forgiveness and compassion is a great way to try to release myself from the drama that I'm aware of on a daily basis. And so that everything that's happening is for a reason, and that we are as a planet and as a people, as a species, we are heading in the right direction, and that this is the path that we've chosen, and that, at the end of the day, all is well. And I have great faith in that. So thank you for Nancy for facilitating this and for allowing me to share that. And I'll put the torch down.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you. That was very uplifting. Thanks a lot. Okay. Would anyone else like to share?
This is Gwen. And
hi, Gwen.
Thank you, everybody. I really enjoyed listening to your comments, and it brought things up in my mind. I think I would start with, as a kid, I was mostly just trying to figure out how to exist, and I didn't really have much vision around any of this, except for my grandma was a Quaker, and she took me with her to Quaker meetings sometimes, and it gave me the understanding that I could go direct to God, and that has always served me to know that. And as I traveled through a whole variety of experiences later in life about different trainings, sort of with Barbara Brennan and with Amy and with light body work and with all of these things, they have certainly expanded my understanding. And also I'd say, early on as a kid, nature was my retreat place, my safe haven, my place to kind of restore myself, though I had a limited understanding of what all that meant, and probably still do, but it was a nurturing place for me. But what I'm feeling as I say all these things is that the mental understanding has been a wonderful journey, but what has impacted me most are the moments when I've had opening kinds of experiences that I did with the Gurdjieff work, or particularly my own emotional journey, because I'm very thankful for those events in my life which were deeply upsetting to me, which allowed me to go deep inside and to do clearing work and to self-examine and to go past the mental and to dig deeper and to find something that things could shift in an instant when I would get to that particular place of light, enlightening experience in a sense. And it's those experiences which inspire me and guide me and nourish me and fill me. And I think that how do I present in the world? It's not through so much talking about any of that stuff, though that happens, and I get interesting feedback from people sometimes, but that because I think that those experiences change me and they align me closer and closer to my divine self, to my light, to who I am, who's the truth about who I am. That's what those experiences do, and so that's what I'm also very grateful for in my life. Presently, I have a teacher from Australia that I traveled with to Egypt last year, and she's going to be actually coming to Sedona in the fall. She's in New York doing something for the solstice tomorrow, in fact. And I love her, and her work is so powerful for me. But day to day here, where do I place my light is with my work mostly with hospice as a volunteer chaplain. And that's, as someone said earlier, as I also, when I had a practice, found it to be such an enormous privilege that people would share who they are with me and allow me to enter into something with them. And I feel that way with everybody that I meet through this work in hospice. And very recently, a close friend of some 25 years passed away with lung cancer. And I had the absolute joy of a visit from him in spirit after the night of his passing, which left me so filled and so joyful and so confident of what I had always believed about continuation of life. But it empowered me to speak of that in a even more authentic and experiential way. And I'm just so grateful for that as well. So I just say experience has been my teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. Lovely, really lovely to when you were talking, I was seeing all these beacons of light, you to the people in hospice and they to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it works both ways, that's for sure. Thank you. Yes.
Very beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Laura, did you want to add anything before?
Oh, thank you. Sure. I've really enjoyed or found it very moving to listen to everybody's sharings, and so I've been soaking that in. And I guess my story is a journey in progress for sure, but some of my earliest memories as a like pre-verbal infant were just this palpable sense of coming from somewhere else, which I would now label something like the soul planes, the Elysian fields, but it was an energetic feeling of this blissful kind of high vibrational place. And as a very young child, I kind of could remember into that place and preserve the feeling of it. And as I got older, I started to lose that kind of direct conduit, and it became more like a memory or a label of the direct experience. But that always stayed with me, and in a sense, I think my life was about trying to find that thing. What was it? Where was it? How could I get back there? And as a young child, I grew up, my parents were, intellectual, and there were ideas and books around the house and so on, but I was, grew up in suburban New Jersey, and so I was kind of searching for that numinous, reality in kind of everyday life. And I kind of, I got exposed to kind of Western esoteric traditions, tarot cards, and some of that stuff. My mother was into Yeats and Eliot and mystic poets like that. But I really connected with the Tibetan tradition and around high school when one of my friends was involved in that. And for me, that became a path for a long time, many years, that really kind of seemed like a real pathway to experientially realize that higher state. And my life has taken twists and turns since then. I've tried to kind of pursue that trail. I think that's definitely the theme that's organized my life, and I've studied a lot of different modalities and like body and shamanism and body work and so on. And I guess it's a work in progress, because although I've definitely had the experience that energy, is connecting everyone, that's kind of the bottom line in a sense, it can really be a challenge. I live in New York City, and so the stress and just the amount of kind of coarseness and discord, things, abrasive things that are not harmonious is prevalent. So the journey has been, okay, how do I kind of find or create this space of beauty, of transcendence within this? And so, I think I've made some progress towards doing that, but it's definitely a work in progress. And I've lately kind of rediscovered sitting meditation, which I used to do a lot of in my Buddhist kind of days, and that for me right now is very, very helpful. I can really feel how my sense is that it kind of opens the higher chakras to kind of be more connected to the higher flows, and seems to help to bring that down and manifest it. So I guess my sort of lesson is that the daily practice for me is really critical to ground that, but it can be a challenge to kind of integrate that into daily life. So that's my my sharing for the moment, but it's been very inspiring to listen to everybody else and the different forms that beacon shows up as. So thank you all for sharing, and that's all for me.
Thank you, Laura. These are all very, very moving. I will just very briefly share mine. I would say that growing up, I grew up in a family of secrets, so that I thought things were going pretty well, although it wasn't always easy. I was always aware that I carried something that that was unusual, or something that was recognized as being okay, as being good. And but it wasn't until I had my dark night of the soul, which happened when I was 18 to 19, that I got jolted into the runway to my entry into awakening. I remember I lost complete context of everything I had known up until that point, recognizing that love was so much bigger than the love of just another person, a boyfriend, the family. And I went into shock and despair. And sure enough, within a year to a year and a half, I was drawn to learn to meditate. There were lots of gurus coming around, and I was drawn to Maharishi Mahesh Yogi with TM, and I was in actually a very solid place at that time, but I still recognized that there was suffering that occurred in every day, even if it was very minor, and that there seemed to me to be something bigger that we were meant to embody to deal with Earth and with life. And I learned to meditate. And that day, February 25th in 1974, I felt was really like a birthday for me. 43 years ago, and I've been meditating daily since. And that is what really was the opening for me to recognize that there was a greater light, that there was something much bigger going on than my family and school and relationships here, and that, in fact, there was a way to access it within me. And I was and am to this day filled with gratitude for my teachers from that point on. And I was then led to healing, to my healing teachers, to Roselight, etc. I have daily practices which are the most meaningful to me. I realized, even being a mother, a wife, working, having friends, that without the nurturing of this inner core, truly none of it makes sense to me. Without the recognition that the light exists within everyone and everything is what keeps me going. It's what makes it all joyful and what helps me through the difficult times. My yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation are where I go to when the turbulence and the chaos throws me off my center, when I resonate energetically with the sadness or the negativity. When I feel it coming on, then I do my practices and I remember. And I've learned that even when I truly believe and understand in the matrix of the cosmos and the light that is there and within me, that still on the earth, on this path, there are days where there is some suffering and there are things to overcome and sadness when we behold what is happening to other people. But I always feel that there is some type of purpose and some type of plan, and that there's always something for me to learn, and that's been my experience. And I learn emotionally and mentally and energetically through the days. And just finally, I do take being a beacon of light very, very seriously. I have great gratitude for those who I'm in contact with and who both give and receive light and support for me and from me. And that's it. And I do want to just invite, as a very quick exercise, if we just go around the circle and everyone can just say one comment. It can be a word or a phrase or a sentence that stays in their heart and or their mind after leaving this gathering tonight. Mine is gratitude.
Mine
Laura.
is thank you.
This is Laura. Imminence.
Sally, all is good.
Anyone else?
Well, mine also was gratitude.
Okay.
Deborah, awareness.
Jose, connection.
Anyone else? Okay, well, I'd like to thank you all for joining us for this Spirit Gathering teleconference. The call may be archived as an MP3 at www.tzaddi.org. Phone access to the recording of this call is available until next month's call. For playback of the recording, dial 712-432-1085. Access code 990-322 pound. The Spirit Gatherings are on hiatus for July and August, but we hope you'll join us for our next Spirit Gathering on September 19th, 2017. The topic and leading will be announced. These calls are hosted by Tzaddi, an interspiritual metaphysical organization founded in California in 1964. Tzaddi welcomes, nurtures, and supports people in celebrating and more directly experiencing their relationship with the loving presence of the divine. Our programs are open to people of any race, color, or national or ethnic origin. Visit that same website to learn more. We will close now with thanks and a blessing. Thanks to Tzaddi founders Amy Keyes and Dorothy Blackmere. Thanks to all of you who have been a part of our community tonight. And thanks to the divine who support us always, even when we are not aware of it. I'm going to read, actually I was going to read a blessing, but I'm going to read a poem by Ho Chi Minh of North Vietnam, because I find it so uplifting and I feel that it helps us to raise our vibration It does that for me, and I'd love to share it. The wheel of nature turns without pause. After the rain, good weather. In the wink of an eye, the universe throws off its muddy clothes. For 10,000 miles, the landscape spreads out like a beautiful brocade. Light breezes, smiling flowers. High in the trees, amidst the sparkling leaves, all the birds sing out at once. People and animals rise up reborn. What could be more natural? After sorrow comes joy. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening, and I want to thank you for joining us tonight.